Hey everyone, welcome to the deep dive into the witch's path to recovery. And I'm realizing I've never done a live stream and actually shared here on YouTube. And I use Zoom, which is really helpful and lovely. But on my presentation, my view, I show up like on the bottom right. And yeah, YouTube has put me up on the top right. So I'm praying that you're going to be able to see everything on the screen here today. And if not, I know for next time, just don't have any time to change that. So let's go ahead and get started. Just welcome. I'm incredibly excited that you are taking the time out to, join us here, watching this, engaging in this, and, learning a different way about recovery. As a heads up, we're going to do this every single month. So you can come back and it'll be different content every month, not the same thing. But, let's get a little bit more familiar with each other. My name is Sunshine. I'm the pink-haired sober witch. My sobriety date is October 9th, 2019. So if you are doing some math, I don't know the exact days. I'd have to look at my app to figure that one out. But I do have over 5 years on my own recovery journey. And when I say recovery journey, when I talk about my recovery, I am talking about recovery from alcoholism. Um, but I often share that I'm not just a recovering alcoholic, I'm a recovering workaholic, perfectionist, and control freak. Meaning there was a lot of things about myself that weren't serving me while I was still drinking. And as I stepped into my recovery journey, I started to realize the impact that they were having on my life. Um, the truth is I don't think this is, a story that just I share. I think a lot of people that step into the recovery start to realize that, you've created a life kind of around your addiction, right? And sometimes that addiction itself masked, who we truly wanted to be. So, I'm a witch, as it says here. The pink-haired sober witch, and I stepped into recovery, after two relapses in 2019. On that date of October 19th, I think it was 2 days later, on October 11th, I walked into an AA meeting for the first time. Not just because I was an alcoholic, right? Because I'd admitted to my therapist in July of that year that I was an alcoholic. But because I was an alcoholic and I finally was able to accept that I didn't know how to stay sober on my own, right? I tried. I had about 63 days into my recovery, or what I thought was my recovery initially. And my earbuds are letting me know that they're running low, so we might switch out to regular volume. Uh, but I had about 63 days, and then I traveled down to Costa Rica for my 40th birthday, and it was there that I hit my rock bottom. Like, I thought I had hit my rock bottom in July, but I hadn't. And so AA welcomed me in, and I did 90 meetings in 90 days, which was a blessing. It really was a blessing. Committing to something for 90 days, committing to my recovery for 90 days is what I believe truly made a difference. Uh, the fact is, though, I was a witch, and I was sitting in a room full of individuals that most of them didn't have the same type of belief, or the same type of spiritual practices, or spiritual perspective on life that I did. And even though they were welcoming, and I loved and adored every one of them for it, something still felt weird. It still felt strange. It still felt awkward. And after that 90 days, towards the tail end, was when I was pulled aside after a meeting, and somebody tried to correct me for saying the word higher powers, right? It's kind of right there when I knew that I needed something different. I needed a different way. All these people talked about church, they talked about community at church, and I kind of stepped back. Then I asked myself, like, what really was my spiritual beliefs? What was my church? So I started to step into my full witch mode, right? I activated my sober witch, so to speak. And so, along the course of the last 5 years, I have, created what I believe is the sober witch's philosophy, right? Belief of what it takes to be a witch, a whole slew of tools that I've used myself in order to stay on that path of recovery. Like, I don't think there's you know, not, it's a big deal to celebrate 5 years. Let's be real. It was a big deal to celebrate one day, one year. But, 5 years, I kind of took a step back and went, oh my God, is my life different? That being said, I also created all of these tools, and I'm here to share them all with you. So each and every month we're going to be back here, and I'll remind you again at the end, but we're going to be back. We're going to be talking about these tools that are available for you if you do want to step into your recovery and embrace uh, the power of witchcraft, right? And embrace that true innate spiritual belief that I know each and every one of you that are watching this has an inkling for. We've got a couple of folks that are going to watch live each and every month. They're a part of what I refer to as the Recovery Coven, or, folks that are really gung ho about what we're doing here, and they can ask me questions, live. You're not going to see them, and you may hear them, but you won't see them. And that's because, we believe in a little bit of anonymity here, but I'll answer any of the questions that they have along the way. And, frankly, if you are watching this live on YouTube, I'm also trying to pay attention to the chat over there, so you can always drop me some questions. I thought what we would start with, though. No, there we go. See, look at first time using the presentation. Questions, we're going to do that. But we're going to start off. This is where I'm not positive if my little face is going to block this. We're going to start with the Witch's Serenity Prayer, just to ground us in this moment, in this time. Taking a deep breath in. Oh, divine universe, grant me the power of water to accept with ease and grace what I cannot change, the power of fire to invoke the courage to change the things that I can, the power of air for the clarity to know the difference, and the power of the earth to ground me in my highest vibrational path. I use the Serenity Prayer a lot throughout, my adult life. I'm very grateful and very thankful for it. Yes, I grew up in a Catholic household. But this prayer in itself was a beautiful moment of reprise for me in a lot of different situations, through an abusive marriage, through trouble of living with an addict when I first stepped into recovery and not knowing how to handle it. This prayer was a really beautiful moment for me to ground myself and to be present in the moment. So I would encourage you to potentially leverage or use this if you yourself ever needed it. So we're going to start off by talking about the philosophy of a witch. And it's, as I was putting this together, I was thinking there's a couple of other authors and books out there that really talk about the philosophy of a witch and their belief. And, there are programs, or, what some people may equate to like mystery schools that will, explore what it means to be a witch. And I think it's really important that each of us comes to our own determination of what this makes, what makes up a witch, so to speak. And in order for me to share everything that I'm providing to all of you, I think it's important that I share with you what my own personal perspective is on that, right? Because if, like, let's be real, if you're going down this path and you don't agree, I mean, that's cool. But you either A, may change or shape things differently, or B, may decide, hey, some of the stuff that I'm talking about, some of the stuff that I'm sharing just doesn't align with you. And you may not want to hang around. Yeah, which is cool. I don't mind that. One of the most beautiful things to me about both witchcraft and recovery is both of them, if you are truly ingrained in kind of, the belief of witchcraft and the belief of recovery, is there is I believe, a pretty constant belief by most individuals that both of them empower you to find your own way, right? There's no one way to be a witch. There's no one way to be in recovery, right? It's a beautiful thing. It really is. So, as far as my own personal beliefs, there's really three things that I boil it down to. And I've shared this with a lot of people over the course of the last couple of years and have received, beautiful feedback around that, that they were like, wow, that's amazing. That's incredible. And I think the reason why, and I've given some thought to this, is because the general population, or maybe I shouldn't say the general population, the folks that are out there, the folks that learn about a witch or hear about a witch, or come across stories, movies, shows about a witch, don't always paint the witch in the best light. You know, I bet you if I were to walk around to, I don't know, 10 people on the street and I asked them to give me, the name or, share with me a witch that they're familiar with, my guess is probably the majority of them, right? Six out of those 10 would say the Wicked Witch of the West, right? The Wicked Witch of the West. Because the Wizard of Oz is something pretty much every person on this, I know probably in the United States, but I would guess in the whole world, I think everybody's probably familiar with the Wizard of Oz. There are more than one witch in that movie, right? It's not just the Wicked Witch, it's also Glenda the Good Witch, but people will think of the Wicked Witch. People are also going to also start to think about, the Salem witch trials, all of the things that happen, with the word that comes to mind is patriarchy, but a lot of the religious factions that started to come after the witches, right? And I think there are some folks that are out there that, are afraid because of exactly these first two items on here. My belief is that every single witch, right? My philosophy of a witch has divine connection through psychic abilities, right? We're able to engage in and use our psychic abilities. And some of us are going to use tarot, pendulums, spirit boards, runes. Some of us have a direct connection just through our abilities, right? We have clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, right? Claircognizance. We can get downloads. Um, we just know sometimes, right? But I believe that's a really, really strong thing that is every single one, every single witch that's out there has psychic abilities. I believe all of us have them, but we literally leverage and use them in some way, shape, or form. We believe that they serve a purpose in our spiritual path, right? As a sober witch, these abilities are going to play a role in our recovery. The next one is this cyclical nature of life and the use of magic to align the universe with our intentions, right? Doing magic, doing spell work, right? Doing ritual work, right? I was born and raised Catholic, and I don't know if you've ever been to a Catholic mass, but I sit there now looking back and I'm like, there was not a more ritualistic kind of thing in my life as a child than mass, right? It was very magical, right? Literally in the middle of mass, the priest would consecrate the wine and the host and turn it into the body and blood of Christ, right? Let alone all of the sacraments and things of that nature that were very ritualistic, So even though I was born and raised Catholic, I had a very ritualistic upbringing in the Catholic Church. As a witch, though, especially, as a sober witch, I lean into the cycle of nature, right? I look at the pagan wheel, the witch's wheel, whatever you want to call it, and I celebrate, practice, and engage the entire cycle of the year. Right now, as I'm recording this, we're in the deep of winter, approaching midwinter. I also believe in the cycle of the moon. So within the Recovery Coven, we do work around the new moon and the full moon. I follow astrology. I'm paying attention to where things are from a planetary perspective. It's very powerful. And I use magic to align my intentions kind of with, what I want. And this can be, the healing work that I do for myself. This can be manifestation work. This can be, really anything. I mean, I think most magic falls into one of those two. Um, I often will get the question too, are you a good witch or a bad witch? I identify as a gray witch. I don't really believe that witchcraft is a thing of, good or bad or, moral, because morals are very they're different, right? They're different for every individual. We get to set our own. So I call myself a gray. And I think most magic falls into either healing or manifestation. And some folks would also say it falls into kind of like, the hexing side of things, right? Shifting and changing the world so that it's in your favor or not in somebody else's. Not my cup of tea, because if I'm going to spend my energetic, my magical energetic in the place, I'm going to do it to better my life rather than waste it on, I don't know, cursing someone else. It's my own belief there. And the third piece, right? The third piece is to be of service and help humanity. I think this is a really big deal. Like when I go back and I look at, there's a really couple really beautiful books that are out there that talk about the history of a witch. And, when we go back throughout the ages, the witch was the individual within a community that was, the midwife, the healer, the doctor. They're who you went to, when you needed healing, when there was something going on. Some of them could do the whole banishing, cursing, and all that kind of jazz. Uh, and I guess in some breath, that's still being of service. My personal philosophy, though, is that we are here to help humanity, right? Um, and that can be in, balancing the scales, so to speak. But I truly believe that we are being called to serve a purpose to try to help heal the world at large, right? And, I'm going to pause for a second because I do put humanity there. But I do think that it is the world at large, not just as humans, but nature, animals, spirits. I do some work, as a medium. I do work with spirits that are on the other side that are struggling or suffering. I think being of service is a really huge part of being a witch. Really huge part. Now, traditional 12-step, traditional recovery programs, traditional I updated it on this slide, being of service to the world with the other one, right? We are, I started in AA, and I did the 12 steps. I worked the steps. I had a, sponsor for a short period of time, another story, another day. And I worked the steps. I did them how they were intended. Uh, but the reality is traditional programs don't include these things. Right? They're not going to include a belief in psychic abilities and like this divine connection that we have through these gifts. They're not going to believe in magic, right? And, working with magic and the energetic of the universe. And they're going to believe in service. Okay. It's literally the 12 step is to go out and help other, individuals in a traditional program. But they're not going to believe that we should be using psychic abilities and magic in order to do those things. The entire philosophy of a sober witch is anchored in these beliefs. Every bit of it. Every single bit of it. Uh, I'm going to go back and just kind of touch. I've taken some notes. I am not saying that there is any one way to engage in any of this, right? I'm not saying that you have to use tarot, you have to use a pendulum, you have to use ruins. I'm not saying that you have to perform spell work, that you have to buy crystals, that you have to buy candles or anything of that nature. I am not even saying that you have to, start up a business and go out there and help, the masses. You get to choose. You are empowered to choose how you want to leverage and use these things, how you want to put them together, right? It may be a matter of it's just you and your family, and you're using your psychic abilities to help your children, right? You're using your magic to help heal and making sure everybody in your household is well and healthy, right? That is being of service to this world, is caring for the individuals that are around us in our lives, right? I think it's a beautiful thing. I don't have children of my own. I never gave birth to children, but I have a lot of people in my life. I have kids, and children in my life. And I believe that using these gifts is a wonderful way to help them see the world differently, help them, you know, be amazing humans themselves, just as much as the work that I do with the individuals that come across my path. This to me is what I'm encouraging you to anchor yourself in. If these are not beliefs that you have, beliefs that you can get behind, then maybe my work is not for you. That's okay, right? Each get to choose our own path in witchcraft. We each get to choose our own path in recovery. I will never, ever, ever say that there's only one way. I'm only going to introduce you the way that's worked for me. Which now we get to talk a bit about the tools. We're going to start off with the Witch's 13 Steps to Recovery. And I'm not going to go deep into each and every one of these tools today. That's not my goal here today. Over the course of the next couple of months, we'll explore each of these individually. And, I will dive deeper into each of them, every month. It'll probably take us a couple of months to get through the 13 steps. I've actually done a step on each of the podcasts before. But yeah, so the Witch's 13 Steps. I thought it was really important, like really important, to embrace the concept of the steps when it came to establishing or creating a tool for a witch's recovery. And you'll see I've done kind of touched on all of these, a couple of the really popular or more potent tools in a traditional recovery 12-step program. And the reason why I did that, and I want to stop before I jump into these and explain that, is because we often want things that are familiar. We're going to be more comfortable with things that are familiar. So if I could take concepts that you may already have been introduced to, that you may already know, and show you how they align to a witch, that felt more potent to me. That felt like it could make more sense to you, that it could make you more comfortable with stepping in and embracing some of this stuff. And as you're on your recovery journey and you're talking about or beginning to open up and share about your own recovery, you are going to find people that are more familiar with the traditional steps. And so this allows you a way to kind of talk, engage, and interact with them, right? I didn't need to go out and create something brand spanking new from scratch, right? Your ability to be able to truly embrace them and adopt them, you would have been able to, but this makes it a lot easier. I'll take a little pause. This makes it a lot easier. So the Witch's 13 Steps to Recovery, I literally looked at each and every one of the steps within the 12 steps, and I tried to ask myself, how are these different for a witch? How might these be different? How might they be more potent if we applied the power of witchcraft to them? Right? And some of them are pretty similar. Like we still are going to start off with, admitting that, we have to surrender. We've got to surrender to something that's higher to ourselves, something that's outside of ourselves, that we are not the answer anymore. Right? If you were to go and look at any of the mystery schools, initiation, things of that nature, they're literally the first thing that they're going to try to do is to let go of the ego. And that's what that step 1 does, is it lets go of the ego. It removes the ego from the recovery journey. I'll give you a little bit of an example as well of something that's different, right? The 13 steps is going to embrace shadow work as a lifelong tool for healing. It's going to be supported by journaling, meditation, and spell work, right? It calls it out. It talks about it intensely. Now, my own personal belief is recovery is an entire shadow work kind of program. I remember talking to my therapist early in recovery about this. And I was like, this is so fascinating to me because everything that we're doing in these 12 steps feels like a disguised version of shadow work, right? Like it felt like they were trying to take me into this space of shadow work. We make it very, very clear in the 13 steps, though. We don't sugarcoat it, right? We make it incredibly clear. Um, you will, as you become familiar with the 13 steps, you're going to see it incorporates magic, shadow work, ritual, healing. I would say one of the other big differences, and this is one that when I was doing the 12 steps myself, it was really hard for me when it got to the point that you needed to like make amends, and I started to realize too that I think where a lot of men, are masculine, dominant masculine, energetic, make amends is often, externally speaking. They've been angry, they've been mad, they've hurt people. And I'm not saying the feminine energy can't, but there are a handful of folks that struggle with addiction that are out there manipulating and using individuals in order to kind of stay on their addictive ways. It wasn't the case for me though. And so when we got to the amends part, it was really hard. I was like, who do I need to apologize to? And the people that I saw or I recognized that I needed to like actually make an apology to, I got this huge somatic response of like, oh my God, if I bring some of this stuff up, am I going to cause them damage? Am I going to make them have to live through something that they were, a time in their life that they weren't comfortable with? Are they able to like have these conversations? And I would just be in this space in my head. So in the 13 steps, we offer the option to do spell work for these individuals, right? To engage in spell work to bring about something beautiful in their lives. I also realized that a lot of those amends that I needed to make were to myself, that I'd done a lot of damage to myself. I'd betrayed myself. I'd abused myself, belittled myself. And when I read through a lot of the stuff in the traditional 12-step programs, I didn't get the direction on how to do that. I didn't get that story and perspective shared with me. Maybe it's out there in some other literature that I didn't have access to, but that was a really big thing for me. So we've got the 13 steps, the witch's 13 steps to recovery. And I'm going to share with you, that might seem a little strange if you've been around a traditional 12-step program because they talk about a 13th step. But I said, F that. You're not going to take a number that means a lot to me as a witch and turn it into something gross. So we took that back. Another one of the tools is the witch's promises. So if you've been in a traditional program, you're going to be familiar that there's something that's often read at a meeting that's called the promises. And I rewrote all of them. I rewrote the whole damn thing, right? I needed another perspective. Even though I thought the promises were one of the more beautiful things that we talked about, shared, and discussed, it still felt like it needed something else in them that aligned to my own spiritual beliefs and practices, that aligned to how I saw the world, that how I saw the universe, how a lot of folks that are on a spiritual path similar to me, aligned with a witch, saw the world. For instance, one of the things that we talk about in the witch's promises, and this is a big, big, big deal for me. This was probably a game changer for me on my recovery journey. It was around in year 3 when this one started to show itself up. And this promises, in the witch's promises, there is encouragement for you to replace judgment with curiosity and compassion, right? Instead of judging things, instead of judging people, places, things. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it right? Is it wrong? Are they happy? Are they sad? Did I upset them? Did I not? To replace it with curiosity. That's interesting that it happened. I mean, I will tell you so much. Like I said, I think I was in year 3, maybe just before my 3-year anniversary when this one came about. And it came out of a fire walk that I did. And we were encouraged to let something go and replace it with something. And what came to me was letting judgment go and replacing it with curiosity. And applying this, making this promise and applying it has brought so much wonderment and awe into my life. I can't even begin to describe it. And it's in everything, right? Somebody's running late. I'm curious, what the world was aligning for them, right? I'm running late. I wonder what it might have been that I just missed, right? Something cancels, something changes, something shifts. I wonder what the universe has in store for me that's better. No more fighting or arguing with my own self. No more finding myself ever in a victim type of mentality, right? Because this judgment, this replacement of judgment with curiosity quickly showed to me that the universe is always conspiring in my favor, always, all the time. So I began to have more compassion for myself, more grace for myself. And it was a beautiful place. It really was. Mm. The acceptance is another thing that's often read at at meetings and things of that nature. And when I sank into this one, you know, it came across that acceptance wasn't just a thing, but it was this frequency, right? This vibrational state that you could engage in and live on and embody. Uh, as a witch and in my own spiritual beliefs, I do believe in the power of frequency and vibration. I believe that energy and our emotions vibrate at certain frequencies. And you can look this up. I'm sure when we get deeper into this one, I will share and we'll go into deeper into the frequencies and the emotional states. But for example, the emotion of guilt or shame is a low vibrational frequency, right? It's low vibration. The frequency, the emotion of joy is very high. Gratitude is like one of the highest frequencies that we can be in. And so when I think about the frequency of acceptance, right, the frequency of acceptance is that place on that emotional kind of like frequency scale that flips us out of low and can move us higher, right? It gets us out of low vibrational states and moves us into higher vibrational states. So it's kind of like this frequency of change, so to speak. But in order to transmute from a low vibrational state into something that's higher, we have to be in that frequency of acceptance for just a moment. Accept that what is does not need to be what will be. I hope that makes sense. If you need a little bit more clarity. And in the frequency of acceptance, like when I talk about it and share with it in the tools, it's not just sharing about the concept of it. I literally give, I can't remember the number. I think it's like 8 or 9, maybe even up to 10 situations of low vibrational patterns and how you can transmute those into a higher vibrational, pattern. And so, failure. I think this is a really, really good one. And I think a lot of people are more likely to accept this one as a truth nowadays. Maybe once upon a time it wasn't so much, but failure is an opportunity of growth. So every single time that we fail, right, we can get stuck in that low vibrational pattern of, oh, I failed. I didn't do well. I didn't do good. We can even say, I am a failure, right? We can be in that vibrational state, or we can transmute it. We can recognize it for what it is. Every single failure that we have is an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to grow. Okay, this did not work, right? the outcome wasn't as I expected. What can I do differently? How can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? How can I change something so that the next time the outcome is more likely what I wanted? That's the frequency of acceptance. Accepting that that failure isn't the end, isn't the end state, that it's just a moment on the journey that we're on. I'm sure if you were to stop and pause, there could be a lot of other examples that you could come up with. Ah, one of the other tools, and I love this. I literally still use the same, pretty much the exact same 3-card pull that I've used almost my entire, recovery journey. Oh, pretty much every morning. Tarot, as I said, we believe in the as a witch, and as a sober witch, we believe in the power of our psychic abilities, right? To provide that divine connection, to give us insight that we wouldn't have otherwise had. And I can sit and I can just ask spirit, hey this, hey that, and I do, right? Is it in my best interest to, head out to the library? Is it in my best interest to call this friend? And I can get direct answers. I'm very grateful for that. Uh, but a deck, right? A deck of tarot cards, a deck of oracle cards, even if you wanted to pull out the pendulum or, some runes or anything of that nature, some type of divination tool, it's incredibly potent. It can provide a perspective that you may not have seen, right? You may not have seen. Uh, I typically recommend a 3-card pull, pulling 3 cards at any time. You can do just one. One, I usually lean towards like a study. You're trying to study those cards themselves, the meaning, its intention. 3 paints a story for you. And usually there's a couple of questions that you can ask, one for each of the card. So for instance, one of the questions is, what's the biggest risk to my recovery that I recommend, especially when you're early in on that recovery journey? What's the biggest risk to my recovery today? What do I need to watch out for? What do I need to prepare for? So I have a deck here with me, and I thought, right? I thought not only are we gonna, talk about, hey, that this is one of the questions in that, I also thought it'd be pretty interesting to pull a card. So I'm gonna shuffle. I did not shuffle it ahead of time. Oh boy, we are almost about to shuffle them all together in the wrong order. Thank God I looked down. You know what I'm saying? But I figured I'd pull. We'll see what it says. So for those of you that are listening, my belief is when we do a card pull of this nature, is it has an intention for every single one of us that are listening. I don't care if you're listening live. I also don't care if you're listening to this 10 months from now. It has meaning and it has purpose for you. So we're going to see what the card said. What is the biggest risk to my recovery? And I'm gonna even ask it for myself, I may have not picked up a drink in over 5 years, but there are other things that I'm working on, other things that I'm trying to let go of that I believe are kind of robbing me of living my best possible life. Right now, one of the biggest things is I have a wild and crazy hesitation to like step into a lot of, caring for my physical health. And I don't know why it is, right? And I've attempted to add, like for example, more fiber into my diet. I've tried to engage in, putting more supplements in to make sure that I'm getting all the nutrients. I've tried to head out to the gym on a daily basis. And I'll find myself like relapsing back into old patterns. Uh, and I haven't given up though. That's the most important thing. I have not given up. I've not given up. I look at every single time and try to see what might I be able to change, what might I be able to do differently, in order to get a different result. So let's see. I don't know that you're going to be able to see the card. I'll put it up onto the screen, but I don't know that you'll be able to see it. So I'll share what it is. That way, if you have a deck yourself, you may want to take and find that card, pull it out, and just look at it, meditate on it. What is the biggest risk to my recovery today. For folks that like decks, this is the Tarot of Dreams by Ciro Marchetti. It's a beautiful deck. I don't use it as often as some of my other ones, but it does sit down by the computer. So anytime I need, this is the one I tend to use. Here we go. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but this is the Magician, right? Uh, when I think about this risk, what is the biggest risk? You know, and the Magician is ruled by the planetary energy of Mercury. Mercury is all around, communication, speed, fast. You know, mercurial energy goes really, really fast. And I'll just tell you right now what I'm thinking is, thinking I'm just going to be able to magic my way out of something, right? That I'm just going to be able to, like, it's just a air related. Mercury is an air sign, so I'm just going to think my way out of it, right? Is the risk. You have to take action, right? You have to anchor yourself into the Malkuth, space. You have to like literally do things, right? Make a change in order to be in recovery. So if you think you're just going to think your way out of it, that you're just going to magic your way out of it and aren't going to have to literally take actions and steps, that's the biggest risk. You've got to take action. You've got to literally do something, engage the power of fire, find the courage that you need in order to do things differently. I think about this, on this particular card, there's the infinity symbol. And based on kind of the meeting point of that card on that infinity symbol is a cup, right? And I think about getting stuck into that pattern, right? That pattern, and just believing that we're just going to think our way out of it. And it reminds me of a couple of months ago, my partner's in recovery, and we were talking about just some like habits that he'd gotten into, and we talked through it and how it was impacting our relationship, and how it was impacting his own personal happiness and joy. And his response to me, when we talked about like needing something different, his response was, "I'll try." And I said to him, I said, "You can, or you could just do." I yodered him, I guess. It's not about what try, it's about what you do. But that's what this card makes me feel, is like we can be on this perpetual cycle of just trying and thinking that we're making a change, or we could literally put the action in place and do something different. So your biggest risk to your recovery today, if you're paying attention and listening to this, is not taking the action when you know you should. All right. If you're watching or listening and you want to drop a comment into this, I'd love to hear it. The reality, my dear friends, is recovery as a witch is just different. Just is. I'm not saying it's better, right? I'm just saying it's different. We get to engage within that, that divine connection and our psychic abilities. And people that I would say adopt their own spiritual beliefs in their recovery path when they're Christian, Lutheran, Muslim, Jewish, or anything of that nature, they may be praying directly to their own God, Allah, creator, whoever that may be. As a witch, it could be a whole slew of deities. It could just be our higher selves, right? It could be the moon, it could be the water, it could be the earth. It could be a whole slew of things, right? And that's different. Most witches are going to be more pagan than they are believing in a monotheistic God, right? It's just different, not better, just different. I think most folks from a spiritual perspective are going to have a belief in prayer and intention. Yeah, thanks for sharing there, my dear. One of the folks sharing live said it resonates. That the card. I feel you on that. The same. Like I can just sit here and think about stuff. Like that's gonna change things. Oh no, it doesn't. Um, but we go back to like, recovery as a witch being different again, right? So Catholics, my grandmother on the other side was a devout Catholic and she prayed. She did a lot of prayer. And yes, as a witch, I still pray. But I don't just pray, I incorporate a lot of magical ritual, a lot of spells, a lot of, deeply transmutive things. I believe in the power of alchemy. I believe that we can change, as within, so without, as above, so below, right? It's just different. It is, it's just different. And I think that there's a lot of recovery programs that talk about, from a 12th step perspective, going out there and sharing and spreading and trying to help other individuals in recovery. But I believe that as a witch, it goes beyond just that, right? It's making the world a better place. It's healing. It's being of service to the world. Finding some purpose that you're passionate about to bring about change. For me personally, it's this work. It is this work. For you, you may, believe in fighting for, equality for all. You may believe in, protesting for women's rights. You may believe in protecting the children. You may believe in protecting the earth, animals, being of service to the world. Recovery as a witch is just different. It's just different. The 13th step is also different. Personally think it's one of the most potent steps that we have, right? Doing ritual to help rid the world of addiction. I believe addiction is one of the most destroying forces that are out there. And I don't mean just substance addiction, right? I don't mean just addiction to drugs and alcohol. I mean addiction to chaos, addiction to social media, addiction to our ego being recognized, addiction to feeling like we have to be the best. I think addiction is one of the most destructive forces that are out there. Yeah. Recovery as a witch, it's just different. I'm not saying it's better. Uh, so you may be on this journey and wondering what else. Oh, look at that. That's a little bit off there. I would strongly encourage you to go ahead to soberwitch.life. That's the website that you can visit. And you'll be able to download the Sober Witch Life mobile app. This is the only recovery app that's out there that's made for witches by witches, and it's home of the free Sober Witches toolkit, right? Everything that we've just covered and talked about is available in there. You can access every bit of it. Not only can you access all of those, there's also a community there that you can go ahead and visit too. You can chat, talk, with other folks that are kind of in the same boat. You'll also have access to the free weekly recovery circles through that app, right? So you can go join us on every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. I really adore it. I adore doing them very much. And, you've got a tool absolutely free. We've got this every single month that we run. You can come join the live Q&A and sit here and chat and, ask me questions along the way. And last but not least, one of the things that's free, and we're actually doing it this coming Sunday, January 26th, is the 3-hour Sober Witch activation. It's a workshop. I'll help you build your recovery staff. All of these you can get and access directly out of that mobile app, right? And I'm going to tell you why I created a mobile app, because there's I could have just had a website. I could have just put something up on Facebook. I mean, I'm in all of these places, but I myself struggle with social media addiction. And so my goal is to eventually here build the community up enough that I can pull completely out of social media in my own life. I don't have to be there at all, right? I don't have to be there at all. Of course, my dear friends. If you have any questions, you can ask them. I know I've got some folks that are listening live, so you can drop any questions that you may have. If not, you can always reach me at any time. You can find me, connect with me through, YouTube here. The mobile app I do have on there on a regular basis. I get notifications. You can find me on Facebook. You can email me. This is my life's purpose is to be here to help, to support, and to, be of service in this way. And a lot of what I offer is absolutely free. My love and connection to you is always going to be free. But I would be remiss if I didn't share, a couple things. So, you can join us again. Like I said, we'll continue to dive into the 13 steps. We'll go through other tarot spreads. We'll talk about spell work, ritual creation, share more of all of the tools in that toolkit. All of this stuff is free. But if you do find out that you are ready for more, right? You want something different. You want not just to talk about embracing witchcraft in your recovery journey, but you literally want to be engaging in this on a regular basis, then consider this your personal invitation, my dear friends. So funny. Like I said, the screen looks so goofy because I didn't realize my image was going to be up in the top right on YouTube. On Literally on Zoom, I show up in this lovely blank white space. But your personal invitation to come join the Recovery Coven. We do this live. We've got about, outside of the weekly recovery circles, there are right now 7 different live workshops or sessions that happen every single month. We are going to, do psychic development through the Claire's workshop. We are going to do the monthly psychic hot seat so that you can build confidence. We have monthly sound healing, gratitude sessions around the full moon, new moon intention circles. We just as of last night launched Creative Alchemy for Recovery, which is a powerful workshop for you to engage in your creative abilities to kind of transmute. That's led by my very amazing partner who is an artist, one of the best that I know. There's also a virtual community. You get access to all of the digital courses that I've created within the mobile app as well. All of the anything else that's introduced. And if you were to join your personal invitation, you do get set 30 days absolutely free. You can find that on illuminateunschool.com. So hopefully I'll see some of you download the app. Maybe some of you even check out the Recovery Coven. If not, keep using the free resources. Keep engaging your own witchy self in your recovery. I promise you, I make a personal promise that if you do step in and embrace your witchcraft in your recovery, you will see transformations like you couldn't even begin to fathom. My life today is so incredibly beautiful, and I am grateful for the journey that's brought me here. And every bit of that journey has had me embracing my witchy beliefs. So, ah, that being said, my dear friends, I think we are good here today. I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream. Hope to see you again, back somewhere, engaged in something. Much love from me to all of you.